The No Nonsense Roundtable, a weekly radio show and podcast where host Dom Genova interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. And now, here's your host, Dom Genova.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of your No Nonsense Roundtable. Every Saturday right here on WYSL, WLEA, and also, like I like to remind you, all the previous shows are on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com, commercial free, because our presenting sponsor is the Rochester Red Wings, and they're in town this week, and we're going to go there for the 4th of July, actually. So what inspired my desire to get this guest on today is that I was doing a presentation, which you'll hear later, from the good people at the National Warplane Museum in Geneseo, because they have an air show coming up on the 11th and 12th. And they started to tell me about all the things that they have to do, and that, the planes that they have. One in particular, B-17. There's only 3 of them, I guess, in existence in the United States. And they were telling me about this. Well, there's a fellow that we know, Casey Bukowski, and he was a gunner on one of these planes in the war, in World War II. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I know very little, but I'm very interested in these men who went up into these planes, B-17s, winning a war that we had to win. And this is not an optional war. This was a existential threat. And the things that they went through and the problems that they had and the stories that are untold, or maybe should be told more. And Casey was a gunner on a B-17. We're going to explain what that is in a minute for people that don't know a B-17. And I am just Casey. You gave me permission to call you Casey rather than Mr. Bukowski, because I really do have a lot of respect for you and what you did and what you went through. And welcome to the show.
I thank you for inviting me and having me on the show, and I'm very happy and proud that I can do this with you.
Well, that's very kind of you, sir. The thing is that, like I said in the previous comment, this was an existential threat to the world, to democracy and whatever. And back in the day, how did you get into the service? I mean, what was your thought process? I mean, was it after? Was it before Pearl Harbor? After Pearl Harbor? Tell me a little bit about how that entry into the service began.
That actually came about just about Pearl Harbor time. And actually, I left high school in my senior year to go work in a defense plant at help the government fight a war, I thought. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I was only 19 years old. And I thought that for me, that would be the greatest adventure in my life and experience in my life. And I wanted to get into it as quickly as I possibly could. So I went, got myself a job, actually through my brother. He worked in the same machine shop that I worked in as a machinist. And we, at that time, worked on the fighter planes, mm-hmm. for Curtiss Wright. And as a matter of fact, we were actually manufacturing the landing gear, retracting struts on that fighter plane. And I, as a matter of fact, met my wife in the same plant. And that's how my wife and I got together. And eventually we stayed together. I joined the service actually because I thought I should be doing more for the government or with the government, with the military, than I actually was in a machine shop. And I, of course, with the objections of my family and all, they all objected that I didn't need to go in the service, but for me, that was another entrance to some more excitement and interesting situations for me that I would be enjoying. So there, I did go, and actually, my first adventure was the Marine Corps. I went to the Marine Corps. I wanted to sign up for the Marine Corps to get in the service, and wouldn't you know, the guys I met were real big fellas, real big Marines, real Marines, big guys. I call them my 10-footers. They were big guys, and when I walked into that office, uh, this one Marine, he was looking down at me. I was only 5'5", and I was looking up at him when he asked me, "What can I do for you, sir?" Well, meekly, I presented myself. I said, I want to join the Marine Corps. I want to sign up for the Marine Corps, and want you to help me with that. And he looked at me at kind of a half smirk, looked at the other couple guys that were in the office there. They kind of got a laugh out of that too. And he very politely, he said to me straight out, "You're not big enough." I, I fell back. Oh, wait a minute, not big enough. What has that got to do with my signing up for the Marine Corps? And well, they laughed about it. He explained that the requirements were strict and all that kind of thing. So actually, I decided that wasn't a good choice for me. So I walked out of that office, disappointed, of course, and I went to the Navy. There, I managed a few tests and exams, and told to wait. I'll be interviewed by another person. And when this guy come out to me, he was all dressed in a white uniform, like a medical man, you could say. I looked at him and I was wondering what can this guy do for me? So same thing. I told him I wanted to get in the Marine Corps in the Navy, and I went to that office to see if I could get signed up in the Navy. And there again, another excuse for actually refusing me, because he said to me at that time, he says, "Sorry, your exam shows you need dental work to be finished up, and we don't have dentists in the Navy." He said, "We don't have dentists in the Navy Corps."
Oh.
I was beginning to doubt my entrance in the service. I left that office disappointed again. I happened to go around another corner, happened to walk into the United States Army Air Corps office. I walked in there, and this I embellish a little bit because it was rather entertaining and kind of funny for me. When I walked into that guy, the guy in the Army Air Corps office, he was waving his hands to me and waving me on. Come on in, welcome in, and inviting me into the place. And I thought to myself, I said, "Yeah, I know, you're figuring a little guy like me will fit just perfect in that ball turd and a B-17.
That's just what I was thinking.
You were very happy to see me. But as fate would have it, though, well, they did accept me in the Army Air Corps, but I ended up as a waist gunner.
Waist gunner.
Waist gunner on the side of a B-17 bomber.
Well, I was thinking just that. I was thinking this is like a Goldilocks story. Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah, they now for people that are not familiar, the ball turret was the a rotating machine gun on the bottom of the plane. God forbid that the landing gear didn't work.
Well,
I mean,
that's true. As a matter of fact, the plane couldn't take off with the gunner and the ball turret.
mhm.
Yeah, the ball turret had to be empty because the position of the guns in the ship went and during takeoff, well, negated that really, and we had to get into the plane, and after we got up in the air, then the ball turret gunner could enter the turret and assume his position at that time. But as I said, I ended up as a waist gunner on the side of the ship because actually my MO was a mechanic, aircraft
Mhm.
mechanic, because as I was trying to get enlisted, I also was involved and other services, and I did go to the Army Air Corps, where they finally took me and accepted me, and that was my enlistment in the Army Air Corps, and that's where I served for actually 16 combat missions.
That's amazing. And then before we get into the plane being shot down and your experience in the POW camp. Let me ask a couple of questions I've always had about you fellas in the B-17. Now, Flying Fortress, you have how many guns do you have? Machine guns do you actually have on a B-17?
Well, to tell the truth, I never counted, and and I wasn't interested, uh, like I should have been at that time.
Okay,
And
but
but let's see, they had two. Well,
well, you had
I,
guns. You got
I'll,
had guns in the front.
I'll go in reverse order.
Okay,
We had a tail gunner.
right.
I was one. Then we had two waist gunners, one on each
Hmm.
side of the ship, and about halfway up the middle. Then we had the ball turret gunner, and then the radio man also served as a gunner.
Hmm.
And then we had the officers that were manning the guns also on the B-17. The pilot,
Hmm.
not the pilot, but the the co-pilot and navigator and the bombardier. He also wrote gunner for us on our missions when we flew missions.
Well,
Then,
one of the things, I mean, in short, I mean, the aircraft is sort of like a porcupine. I mean, it has guns all over it, all around. Now, you as a waist gunner, the question I always had too is that there are planes of formation around you. You have a machine gun that points in any direction. There's no governor on this that's not going to make it go in one direction or another. How can I mean shooting another B-17 has got to be, I mean, it's got to be very hard to be shooting at an incoming German aircraft while there's a B-17 right next to you. I mean, how do you do this?
well, it wasn't all that easy, and actually, I found out that at that time that flying combat wasn't as simple as I thought it would be. But when they when
Excuse me for laughing, but that's
I,
a great statement.
I found out about combat actually by you could say by accident, when I found that the Germans were shooting back at me. They, I
Yeah.
was we went on our first mission, and was what we called a milk run, which a very easy mission. Yeah, we met some opposition, but it was in the distance, and they weren't actually right after us on those missions. And we call them milk runs because they were easy missions. But then when we got more into it, further into combat, I found out that the Germans were shooting back at me when I was shooting
Well,
at
you,
them.
well, the other thing is you didn't have fighter escort, right? I mean, until the P-51s, and that was very late in the war, right?
Yeah, oh yes. For the most part, we had escorts uh, uh, to tag along with us on our missions, but they weren't always there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there were some problems with the escort. They couldn't take us all the way to
Mm-hmm.
the completion of the mission, and we had to fly on our own to the target and find our way back to our actually home base best we could, and in many cases, but there were escorts available for us.
And I mean the conditions in the planes too. I think a lot of people don't understand that these planes were not pressurized. So you
No,
are how many tens of degrees below zero, and you're in a warm protective gear, and then comment about the oxygen. I've heard things about you guys at the at a bombing run or whatever would have to take your masks off because the oxygen was freezing in your mask. Is that true?
that happened. Yes, that happened a few times, and simply the moisture and developed by us breathing oxygen it would freeze up, and we'd have to fly without the oxygen, and that we accomplished simply but we were able to fly at different altitudes for our raids and compensate for the freezing that way
Mm.
by by actually taking the oxygen masks off and flying without them. But that that didn't happen all that often. It
Mm.
did happen, but not all that often that there would be a problem for us. And I flew 16 missions
Wow.
before we were shot down. We were shot down by a
Wow.
German fighter uh, on a mission to right into Germany.
Well, let me ask you, how many flights, how many missions do you have to fly
Well,
before you were rotated back to the United States? Was it an unlimited amount or 20 or
well
20? What was it?
the requirement was 25 missions.
Whoa.
Like then we'd be well, I always said we'd be recirculated, but the requirement was 25 missions, and we were eligible to go back to the States. And well, some became teachers,
Mm.
instructors, I should say, and others kept, kept on flying, and then the others went to other planes, flying other planes, and just kept going that way. We kept the Air Force going that way. But and at that time, it was still the Army Air Corps.
Hmm.
When we went overseas, we went over as the Army Air Corps because then the Air Force Air Force took over the Air Corps. Well,
So to give our, I'm sorry.
about a 15th or 16th mission that they took over as Air Corps. Well, as well, I put it simply this way: our crew was shot down as the Army Air Corps.
Mm-hmm. Well, for people who in the audience who don't have an idea of the time frame here, you were shot down in February of 1944,
Yes.
and the Battle of the Bulge was in December of 1944. So there's this big gap between you being shot down and the things starting to wind down like they did with the Battle of the Bulge and the end of the war. So you got shot down, parachute, get picked up and placed in a POW camp and on a death march. Let's talk about this.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, actually, when I was shot down, my first prison camp was in East Prussia, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our first prison camp. As a matter of fact, the Germans, the officers that picked me up, German military that picked me up, they took me to a local hospital first and patched me up because I was wounded when we were shot down. I lost my eye at that time and received some wounds in my body from the machine gun fire, and then they took the German officers first took me to East Prussia, to a prison camp in East Prussia, where I was stationed for a while and held prisoner, and until the Germans began having trouble with the Russians, and the Russians wanted to take over us as prisoners, and the Germans just didn't want us to be turned over to the Russians because they had some, well, you could say terrible stories about the prisoners. And well, the story that interested me most and alarmed me most was when I heard that the Russians, if they took over prisoners, even civilians, and all counting with the military,
Mm-hmm.
that people would just disappear and never be heard from again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was hoping that I wouldn't be one of those people because I actually I was actually still interested in finishing the war at that time, but and uh, and the Russians made it kind of difficult to accomplish that with them taking over the prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were moved to Stalag 4. That was a second prison camp. And then the Russians were still advancing around that time and taking out prisoners. And we were this we were moved again. Actually, from that prison camp, we were moved again, and this time on foot. We got into that what they call the death march. And
And how long was the march? I mean, how many miles do you think?
well, from what we heard was 84 days. 84 days
Whoa.
march from actually Stalag 4 to Leipzig, Germany, to that area, where actually we met Patton's forces.
Mm-hmm.
And Patton's forces were coming up from the south at that time, and we it was a simple thing, as far as I can remember, that we just met through each other's lines. We were the Germans just
Mhm.
kept us on guard, and we marched through the lines, the Patton's forces, and the Germans actually became prisoners at that time, and the group that I was with, we were liberated.
Well, the word is that Patton Patton realized that the Germans would much rather surrender to us than to
Oh yes, oh absolutely,
to the Russians.
much rather yes, uh, and and well, as when I do, I myself and the group I was with, we were liberated at that time and taken to the American prison camp, American camps, and processed there. And from what I remember, we went back to England, and then back to the States, and then
Hmm.
I went back to this. I went to discharge that way. I was discharged in the United States when I got back to the States after my stint as a prisoner.
Well,
And
and the conditions I heard were atrocious. I mean, dysentery
well,
and not enough food and what I
yes,
mean, it wasn't like our POWs. Our POWs, it says that the Germans that were taken here to the United States, they said had a pretty easy time of it, obviously.
yes, that's so. Yeah, I I always wondered how come that Germans were treated so well from what
Hmm.
we heard, and the rest of us, well, we got stuck with the Russians and other
Hmm.
uh, miserable companies, let's say. So we had it. It wasn't easy. And as a matter of fact, I I I I I I I myself considered myself fortunate because I'm I'm of Polish extraction and I could speak Polish,
Mm.
and I met quite a few of the Polish forced laborers in Germany, and that helped me barter with them for better food or more
Mm.
food and things like that, and and in a sense that worked well for me. It worked real well for me, and I was I spoke with even with the guards, the German.
Mm.
I spoke pretty much with them, and they were quite informative as far as how the war was going for us,
Hmm.
and 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 then of course, and where we were going and things like that. But uh, we we changed sides. As I said, the 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 Germans actually, when it came their turn, they became the prisoners, and we were liberated at that time. And the Americans took over the German prisoners, but the German guards, and we went back to England and back to the States, back home. And
Must have been an unparalleled moment of joy when that happened.
oh yes, as a matter of fact, uh, there was some requests or questions actually, and for myself really. Uh, they, they were talking about re-upping in the service, and I found out that if I couldn't fly anymore because of my wounds,
Hmm.
my eye and all that, I I wouldn't fly anymore. But they would they would take me back in the service as an instructor
Ah.
or use me in training, things
Hmm.
like that. And I said, no, I, if I can't fly, I don't want any part of it. I don't want to push a chair around.
Hmm.
In some office, I made sort of a joke out of it. I said, no, I'm not re-upping. But when I got back home, I did re-up. I I got married.
That's great. That's great. From the gal that you met in the plant, you said, right?
Yes, that's
Yes.
re-up.
Oh, God bless you. Casey, we're just about out of time. I have to say sincerely, I thank you for what you've done. I mean, you know what I say this all the time. The Jackie Robinson quote: "Life has little meaning except for the effect it has on other lives." So whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, if you live your life where you're contributing to humanity, to everybody's well-being and whatever, then you have a life well lived. And it's really obvious that you have had a long and wondrous life well lived. And thank God for people like you, because we would not be here. I mean, this was not an option, the Second World War. This if things worked differently, if if Hitler was smarter than he was, he would have had the atomic bomb, and we would all be would be all in this true Nazi state. And you guys did these incredible jobs, and probably being a waist gunner it is in a flying fortress is probably one of the most stressful and dangerous things that you can do. And then being in a POW camp and coming back and having the attitude and life that you have. Thank God for you, and thank God for the guys like you that went through that back then. Now, let's do a little retail for the air show. Now, the air show is going to be on the 11th and 12th. Now, will you be there?
Yes, I think yes. My friend Jared is going to take me to the air show.
Okay. I would love to meet you. When you can be there both days or just certain times or
We can do that. Yes.
okay. Well, I'm going to make sure that I get there with my wife Nita and see you and shake your hand. And one last thing. You talked before about something that actually Kennedy said in his inauguration. He said, "Don't ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." And that's sort of what you were talking about at the beginning of our interview here. But if you were to look back and to this generation now, the kids that are coming up in high school, college, whatever, what advice would you give them?
Well, I picked up a phrase that actually I found it in a magazine, and while I was still in the service, and it said simply, "Live life every golden minute of it." And that word golden, every golden minute just
Hmm.
struck me proudly, let's say. And now I was really, real proud to say that. And that's that actually, in a sense, was my aim because flying combat, I thought I had only, well, I thought I gave myself actually two options. I would be killed in action, or I would return back home safe and sound. And neither one of them happened because I ended up being a prisoner of war, spent time in Germany and things
Hmm.
like that. And I'm very proud of that part of my life. And I and anytime anyone mentions uh, thanking me for my service, I always retort, thank you for the recognition. I appreciate that wholly and totally. And I, that's, that's, that's still the way I feel. I'm 102 years old
God bless you.
and still kicking the dirt around. But
Yeah.
and simply not giving up.
Yep.
I'm going to go as far as I can, as long as the good Lord is willing.
Hmm.
I'm just willing to follow, and I'll make a real trip of it for myself,
Hmm.
especially for my pride and being proud of being able to serve our country. That's this way.
That is a wonderful philosophy. I mean, it just is. God bless you. Seriously, God bless you for what you've done. And the nice thing about this, this is not only going to be on the radio, but it's going to be a YouTube. So what you were telling and your story, whatever, lives in this YouTube for you to share with whoever you want. So thank you ever so much. I will see you on the 11th or the 12th. And like I said, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been quite the honor.
Thank you so very much for the invitation and the interview. I'm proud of of the people asking me and wanting to hear my story, and uh, I'm just simply proud of the whole situation as it turned out for me.
You guys saved us all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. We'll see you. Well,
Uh,
on the 11th or 12th.
Yep.
That you know what? That was really, really, really good. Thank you ever so much. That is like I think I have 350 or 400 interviews. That's probably, right there in number one or number two. I mean, it's great. I'm so glad to have met you. Your generation, your generation went through the depression and this war and recessions and whatever, and you guys don't complain.
Off the record, I would like to say that I did develop a sort of a reputation after all this, and it comes from other veterans too,
Mhm.
and it simply says that if BS was music, I'd be a brass band. That's how much I talk about my experience and how the younger people should react to that.
Well, the thing is that this younger generation is unfortunately I I won't tell you who, but there's somebody who is very involved in the military who was talking to me on my show, and he said that his daughter was enlisting in the Navy, and the grandparents were really angry that she's enlisting in the Navy because, I mean, obviously they're very, they're very, very liberal, and they don't think it's an honorable thing for her to do. And it's just, I mean, you got to be, I mean, people are nuts. People are nuts. I mean, the people that sacrifice. And the thing I found in interviewing a lot of people, a lot of vets too, is that generally speaking, you sign up for one of two reasons. One is it was 9/11 and it inspires you to do something for your country, or you want to do something for your country, or and this is perfectly fine. It's a good career. It's a good career. You can come out. The fella that's my electrician here learned it in the Marines. So now you don't have a student debt and you have a marketable skill, Casey. I mean, even if you go into the military for that, well, then that's worthwhile. You don't have to go between because there's a war on and you want to make this country successful. You could be a little bit selfish and say, listen, this is a good career. I got a retirement and all this other stuff. It's just as it makes so much more sense than getting a degree in Russian history and you're a barista at the Starbucks. I mean, geez. So
Well, as I said, I'm I'm really satisfied and proud that I could serve my country the way I did, and real happy the way it turned out for me. I
God bless you. God
I
bless you.
I managed to survive the war and the prisoner of war camp and all that, and I know I had some backing behind me. All and one thing I want to mention about the younger generations, I'm real proud of some of that younger generation that I met after my service.
Mm-hmm.
How they respected me
Mm-hmm.
for what I did
Oh, absolutely.
and when I did it and how I did
Yep.
it. That was a great deal for me, and I'm real proud of that.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree. The ones I feel sorry for are the Vietnam vets. Man, I have to tell you that whole thing where they came back
Oh,
and
I yeah, I used to work. I used to work for the VA hospital,
hmm
and well, I tried to get back in the machine shop when I got back, and all I got from them was, well, we'll get back to you, and
hmm
actually, I never did. So I talked to my congressman, and he said I should try the VA, and because they were hiring at that time. So I went there. I got a job with the VA. I worked with them. I worked as the purchasing and contracting for the VA, and was one of the better choices in my life there too. And I I I tell a story of how I ended my service, and I'm real proud of it for that for it ending up that way for me. Uh, I'm proud.
How do you have so much energy?
Well,
Geez, I mean,
I I,
you, huh?
I just don't give up. I I I keep bouncing around, and I've got a lot of help from my fellow veterans and fellas that I met since then and things like that. And it's just an inspiration to me to keep going like this. And as I said, I'm not giving up. Just keep going as long as I can.
God bless you. I am so glad to have met you. This is wonderful. I have this expression: people either get it or they don't get it. You get it. You get it. You understand. If I look at the sky in the morning and I go, well, those clouds are never going to be like that ever again. And this day is totally unique, and maybe I'm never going to live another day. And you sort of articulated that a little bit before. I'm not going to put my comments on the air, but I'm thinking that yeah, this guy gets it. This guy gets it. Every day is a gift, right? You're lucky to
And
be here. Whether you believe in God or not, the universe has been around for 83 billion years or something like that. Just the mere fact that you're alive is pretty incredible. And,
it, it,
and you know what? You're gonna have some shitty days, okay, but as long as you get out alive, you're doing okay.
that's
You know what I'm doing? I say this on the show every once in a while. I'm pretending like I'm gonna live forever, Casey, I'm pretending like I'm going to live forever, and I'm only going to be wrong on one day.
Well, that's about the same way I look at it because I'm 102.
102.
That's going a good way, and I'm still looking for more
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. You
And
only have to, just Casey, you only have to, it's only going to be the one day. You can't die twice. So,
that's exactly right. Exactly right.
well,
And,
thank you ever so much. We'll see you soon. And like I said, I am so happy and proud that you spent this time
yeah,
with me.
yeah. Thank you for the invite and the invitation and the comments. All that. I appreciate that so very much.
Did you get the opportunity to tell them where you were recently?
Oh, well, couple weeks ago, I just got back from Europe.
Uh-huh.
My friend Jared actually took me back to Army Air Base that I was stationed at Ridgewell, England. Took me there, back there, and then we went to Poland to the prison camp I was at,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went to Germany also, and spent actually 10 days out,
Right.
out on the road with my friend Jared, and just got back about 10 days ago.
Well, the nice thing about this show is that we can make this whatever we don't use for the radio show, which is going to be on Saturday, we can use for the YouTube. So we can make this as long as we want. So, if you still have the energy for it, let's talk about you meeting the other fella that was shot down on the same day. I mean, that's
Oh,
an incredible that's an
yeah,
incredible story.
that actually turned out a disappointment for me because I met him before, and I was looking to see him again at the meeting at the meeting with the other fellow Lester, and I wanted to talk to him in depth about us being together,
Mm-hmm.
simply an arm's length, really apart,
Ah.
and never met. I never met until I met Lester here in the States through Jared, my friend Jared, and I was gonna talk to him about what what we went through, both of us, in the same place at the same time, and that never materialized. He passed away suddenly,
Uh,
and we didn't get a chance to meet again. But I was really looking forward to that meeting and seeing him again and talking in depth with him about he said when I first met him and talked with him, he seemed to me a wise guy like me, like
oh,
joking around and
uh,
all that kind of stuff, kidding around, and 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 of course you're always bringing up the girls too, uh, like I was,
mhm.
but we were pretty much the same color. Let's put it that way, and worked well for us that way until he passed away, and that went down the road for us. But I enjoyed the trip anyhow. I enjoyed the company of his Lester's friend Mike. We put it all together and had a good time when we were there. But I did find out that age wise, I think I'm good. I'm running out of gas.
You seem to be you have more energy than I do, for God's sakes. Uh, and
Well,
I'm a youngster compared to you. I'm only 72, so
as I said, I'm not giving up. but I think my body is. My body's body's telling me take it easy. And
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you again. You're a gentleman. Your soul shows through on the outside.
well,
It really does. And God bless you for what
I'm
you've done
still,
and who you are.
I'm still having fun.
You're still having fun. Yes, you have this impish look in your eye. That's yeah, you have that twinkle. You have that twinkle in your eye.
Well,
Really,
well,
really, really,
I,
really.
I keep that going purposely, even to fool myself.
Okay. Well, we'll say goodbye for now, and I'll catch up with you on the 11th and 12th. Thanks.
We'll
Bye bye.
Take care, and thanks again.
Thanks for listening. You can find our previous shows at nononsenseroundtable.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.